All right, man. Let's get into the list. Why don't you introduce it?
Okay, well, I'm Addison. This is Zach.
Okay.
Today we're talking about are we calling it influential movies? Are some of our favorites, not necessarily the
I would just say it's the
best.
ones that are the most special to me. Like, there's a lot of movies that are like I watch all the time. Not all the time, but like I've watched many times. But they're like I'll just give an example up right off the bat. Is Pulp Fiction. Like to me, is an amazing movie. I've watched it like probably 5 times in the last few years, which is like a few years ago is the first time I saw it. So like I've watched it a lot of times,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily come together for me personally as like a cathartic experience.
Interesting. Okay.
So I would give more examples, but I don't want to spoil like what movies are and aren't on my list.
See,
But
I'll go ahead and Pulp Fiction did make my list.
yeah, I knew it would. Like I knew Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction would be on your list. Um, but yeah, for me, it's the movies that like give me the warm and fuzzies and have made my life more bearable.
Oh.
you know, like
See.
there's not a horror movie on this entire list. There's here. I don't want to show them on camera. I don't want to spoil them. There's very few
Okay.
like action movies. Um,
Yeah, I would say in general,
a lot of these are
dramas
dramas for
are
me.
more impactful.
Yeah,
Like in a TV show, I like comedies. Dramas in general just kind of get boring because they're
I
not as
agree.
impactful. Because with like a TV show, you just want to be entertained for a long period of time. Like that's kind of the point of the TV show is just have entertaining value reproduced over and over again. Like The Office, if it was
Yeah,
just dramatic, it wouldn't be good to watch over and over again because the drama would get boring. But or like It's Always Sunny, I enjoy it
yeah.
because it's funny and I can watch it for whatever it is, like 150 hours, something like that, and it's still funny. But okay, so yeah, so I don't have these listed in any particular order either, but we're gonna do 11 movies each that are special to
Well,
us.
mine is. I wouldn't say it's like 8 versus 9 is like a clear distinction, but I would say like 2 versus 9 is a clear distinction for me. Like the way I've ordered them. I
Okay.
didn't. We should tell the folks at home. We prepared this in like I had probably 20 minutes to think about it, so it's not like basically the order that I thought of them in. Like the ones I thought of absolutely first are the ones that are closer to the top of the list.
That's fair. But I
So
mean,
if it took me like 10 minutes to remember that that's one of my favorites, then it's lower on the list.
that's fair. And like I chose some of mine, and I'll get into that just because of their childhood significance to me, that sort of thing. But okay, yeah. So, but pretty high up there on my list is Pulp Fiction for sure. It's one of those that I will always be able to watch it and enjoy myself watching it. I really enjoy, the arcs. Of Bruce Willis, and Marcellus Wallace. I don't even remember Bruce's real name because it's just Bruce Willis in the movie to me.
Butch.
Butch, that's right, yeah.
Is Butch.
Them getting kidnapped, it is such a compelling, like, dramatic piece to me, along with all the dialogue that goes on around it. It really, it's like a solid, yeah, all around. I enjoy every minute of it. So that's,
See,
it's
I would
on
have
my
to say
list.
my thing with Pulp Fiction is that on my first viewing of the movie, the Butch storyline with the watch was my favorite. But on every single repeat viewing, that's been my least favorite portion of the movie.
It has the least interesting dialogue, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and the part with the girlfriend and even the part before that in the taxi, it really drags for me. Like that 20 minutes of the movie, I feel like you could have cut out a lot of.
See, I feel like that's necessary to give sorry, to give Butch the emotional content necessary for the them getting kidnapped scene. I don't. I think that build up, like once you've already seen it, yes, it's kind of unnecessary and it drags a bit because you already have the emotional content. But like, yeah, it's necessary upon first viewing to really get a feel for Butch and make that scene seem relevant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
But yeah,
obviously,
like
like
for me, the
Jules.
stuff with Vince and Mia is, or like the stuff with Vince and Jules is way more compelling.
Yeah, and I think Jules is the most compelling character overall. He has his whole he's a gangster, but he turns into a man of God thing in like a day. He has that arc, which it kind of he starts and finishes the movie with those scenes. Well, the first scene is them sticking up the diner.
The diner, yeah.
Yeah, it,
That's a great bit of dialogue.
it is, which
Yeah,
it sets
it's
the tone for this is an interesting dialogue movie. Like we're like it's gonna be conversations. Like that's kind of like that sets the tone for me. That opening diner scene, and then you have Jules and
yeah.
Vincent talking, and it leads up, to them just like being gangsters. Like they pull the guns out, let's do this thing, and then the last scene
Well,
is
yeah.
Jules in the diner again. It wraps up very well for me as an experience.
I feel like the best line in that opening diner scene, it really sets the stage for the movie, is when she says, "Well, what are we gonna do? Get normal jobs?" And he just goes, "Not in this life."
None of this.
Like that to me is like the theme of the entire movie. Like it really encapsulates like why the characters do what they do is because it's like this is the life they've chosen.
Yeah, it's like, are they gonna get normal jobs? Not in this life.
Not in
Yeah,
this life.
that is good. Yeah.
So yeah, but Pulp Fiction, yeah, definitely a respectable pick. Um, for me, it's like it's a party type of movie. Like it's fun to watch, but it's not a place that I want to go to all the time. You know,
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't have the
I
emotional
don't know.
content you like revisiting as much.
Yeah. Well, it's very. I mean, the movie by nature is very fractured, so it's not. It's harder. It's harder to really get attached as much. Like both, like well, I have Tarantino movies on my list,
I was gonna say, Jackie Brown.
and they're the more linear of his movies. So I mean, yeah, it's borne out to me in the fact. So I'm trying to like
Yeah. So
two,
go
three,
ahead.
four,
Is yours is
nine,
Jackie
10.
Brown? You
Okay,
can do one of yours now.
so I'm kind of well. I have also like a bunch of honorable mentions. Should I do those now or right before number one? I was just gonna list them out in like rapid fire.
You can just do those at the end. Honorable mention. If they don't
Okay,
make the list, we'll just do them at the end.
I'll leave those till the end then. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this so far. Okay, I need to move this down the list a couple pegs. Um, okay, that's fine. Okay, so number 11. Oh,
Oh,
actually, wait.
are you starting at the bottom and going up?
Sorry, I can't count. Um, oh, I need to figure out one of these to ditch. Okay, because I actually have 12. I forgot. There's one movie that I don't have the case for, and so I forgot about it. Because I don't own the Blu-ray of it. Ooh, I don't know if I can bump one of these though. That's my problem. But you might just have to suffice me to have 12 movies
I
on my
don't think
list.
that's how it works. You have to. Send one to your honorable mentions.
Damn. Okay, I'll send the top one to my honorable mentions. It's a really hard decision for me though. So number 11 for me would be National Treasure.
Okay, I assumed that would make your list.
And now I love National Treasure seeing in the theater. Like that's one of the movies that like I really remember seeing, and like by the end of the movie I remember thinking like that was a really really good movie.
Uh huh.
To me it encapsulates a feeling that is not replicated in literally any other movie. Like a lot of these other ones are like I like them the best out of that category of movie,
Uh huh.
but like to me National Treasure is like Indiana Jones doesn't really cover it. You know, there's no other action movie that's like similarly like I mean it's the Nick Cage charisma, you
Yeah,
know?
it's.
Like it's it's a movie about American history, which is awesome. It's like the first act is like a heist film, which is awesome. Like I love Riley when he's like, "Our evil plan is working." Like the campiness of the movie as well really adds for me. Like
Yeah.
I know some people see it and they're like, "This movie is ridiculous," but like for me, it adds.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's
then
the
like
whole, Nick Cage plays into the campiness sort of thing.
yeah, the whole thing just it really comes together for me, and like I would say that like the time in my life when I really started to love it is that like me and Nana and Hazel, who are like my grandparents basically, like we've watched it together probably in the 8 months that I was living in Mesa. We watched it like probably 10 times.
Oh.
No joke. So like I for some reason we just realized that we're like, what movie do we want to watch? I could kind of go for National Treasure again. Like so yeah, I mean you can't argue with the Nick Cage charisma in my mind.
That's fair.
Like
I
if you don't have a Nick Cage movie in your top 11, then you know
I
you need to
don't.
reevaluate your life.
I was considering, honestly, I really like Next. That goes
See,
next.
next is in my dad's top 3 of all time.
It goes in my honorable mentions for sure.
Okay.
The problem, I love Nick Cage so much,
The movies he's in general are not that great.
but that's the problem. Is
Yeah.
that like I love Ghost Rider, I love Next, I love Face Off. Like,
Face Off is way too long. It is such a boring movie. At a certain point, you're just like.
like the movies that he's in though just don't quite like if we're doing actors for sure he makes it in the top because of the quantity of his movies that are so
Yeah.
entertaining.
National Treasure and The Family Man are easily his best movies in my mind.
That's fair. Family
Although
Man
I
is
haven't
also
seen
good.
some of his
I still
some of
need to
his
watch
earlier
Con
ones.
Air. I feel
Still
like
need to watch Con Air. I haven't seen. I think Leaving Las Vegas. He won an Oscar for, and I haven't seen that.
hmm. But
If I'm remembering the
anyways,
name right, but
yeah, so
anyways,
okay, so 11 National Treasure.
in general, yeah, like yeah, this the ordering of them is definitely not too precise,
That's
but
fair. Well, my next one is actually Memento.
ooh, okay.
Yeah, so
Memento is in my honorable mentions,
okay.
so I couldn't find a place for it in the top 10.
See, I feel like some of my best are going to be your honorable mentions. Yes, Memento. Because it really like thrillers in general, I enjoy them, but they never catch me, if that makes sense. Like I enjoy thrillers, but most of the time I don't know. Again, it's kind of like with drama. Sometimes the drama feels forced or like a little too extra. It's like it's not actually that, but it
Yeah.
was the perfect amount of mystery and like everyday dialogue, because most of it was just him talking. Like a lot of
Yeah.
it was just that, and I really like that in movies. Right, that's part of why Pulp Fiction is on the list. It's just because it's just nice dialogue between characters that kind of keeps you engaged, but it was still like you have no idea what's happening, sort of thing. Like it was a nice blend of mystery with dialogue that wasn't too much action. It
Yep.
wasn't like too high of stakes. That's I mean there was murder and all that, but it felt more just like this is a guy who doesn't know what's going on, and you're finding out like yeah,
Yeah.
it felt
Well,
almost
what
more
Nolan said
casual.
about it is that it's Nolan was basically trying to write a movie with the ultimate version of the unreliable narrator. Like, and I think he succeeded in that effort. Like,
Yes,
because the character literally does not know what's going on, but then there's also like times when he's sort of like doesn't want to see the truth. I definitely don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it because, well, here's the reason it's in my honorable mentions and not in the list is because I think it's one of the most amazing like movie experiences, like especially on a first time watch.
the
For
rewatch
me, it
value
does
is
lose
not
the
as
rewatch.
high. Yeah,
I've watched it I think 3 times, and like the second and third time, pretty much the only reason I watched it is because I was showing it to other people,
that's fair.
and yeah, like it's an absolutely amazing movie. But and I actually no lie, I have considered getting that "Remember Sammy Jenkins" tattooed on my hand.
Yeah,
So like yeah, the movie definitely affected me in a really deep way, but yeah, like it's I almost never would have the urge to rewatch that movie.
that's the thing. But that's
But
also why I feel like in general I haven't liked thrillers that much. Is because once you
yeah,
watch it's over. Like it is definitely a first time experience, but it was just yeah. And I would say it's not a movie you're gonna pop in, 2 or 3 times a year. Like it's not something that
yeah,
you're gonna watch on a regular basis. But it was such a well done thriller. It it really like set the tone for the whole genre for me. Like I said, like best of the genre sort of thing. So
yeah. I can definitely see that. Yeah.
all right,
All right, time
you're
for
up
my next
next.
one. This is gonna be. I'm not sure what all I can even say because you know what it is.
Oh.
It's Walk the Line, baby. And it's the biopic about Johnny Cash. And, you know, damn. I mean, the story became, for the folks at home, the story became so personal to me at a certain point that I started to think of myself as Johnny Cash. Like, I think I told you, there was one time where I was like praying to God and it wasn't working, so I called out to the spirit of Johnny Cash for help. And yeah, like for me there's so much emotions tied up in this movie that I haven't had the strength to watch it in probably it's been like 2 years.
Was the
But the
last
movie
time when
affects
we
me so
watched it
much.
together?
Maybe. I don't quite remember. I know it was when we were still living at my parents' house is the last time I've seen it.
Yeah, probably then.
So
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
this movie,
There's not much I can say about it. It's
you
just
even put into frame of reference the people you interacted with as characters, or as
yes, like
people in Johnny
the
Cash's
yeah.
life, and yeah,
The story it helped me basically I don't know. It just made me feel like that I wasn't the only person that this was happening to,
oh,
sort of thing. Like I don't know.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, in like as a movie, it's like a B, but as a like
as an experience for you.
as an experience for me, it's so like important to my life that I couldn't not put it on the list.
That's fair.
But I mean, damn.
That's kind of one. So my next one, and this is probably my most basic bitch choice. Is The Dark Knight. I recognize that it's overhyped. Like in general, The Dark Knight has been overly lauded, and the whole Heath Ledger dying before it came out probably contributed to that. But for me, when I saw it, I want to say I was 11 when it came out. I was
I doubt you were that old because
It
I
was
was. It came
2008,
out in
wasn't it?
2008.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
11.
Really?
Yeah, I'm older than
I was
you.
9 then.
Yeah, I'm 2 years older than you.
I thought you were like a year and change older, but oh well.
Well, yeah, it's like a year and a half or something like that older than you. But anyway,
See,
yeah,
I don't know that it's.
it was
I don't.
very formative to me. That's what it was. It was one of the first, and it kind of, set this whole thing up, the gritty action movies with Batman Begins. Like, it was a superhero movie, but it ran more along, like, the gritty action movie sort of genre, and it really just, it was one I watched on a regular basis for years. It's been one of my favorite. Again, it's hard to say if it's still one. Like, it's one I would watch once every year or two now. Like, I still enjoy rewatching it. It's definitely lost some of the mysticism that it held for me as a child. Like, when
Yeah.
when I was a teenager, it was definitely like a mystical experience. The whole thing. It was a very great good versus evil. Like it epitomized that in a sort of realistic way for me that other movies hadn't done up to that point. So like it really was, it's a conquering of the human spirit. That's what it's about. It's is this a show about singing or is it a show about the indomitability of the human spirit? Yeah, that sort of thing. It's just about people turning out to be good. It's really what it boils down to, with some
Yeah.
shooting and action and stuff, and it's exciting. And but that really was the first movie that really hit home for me with that sort of topic. So that's why it makes my list.
I'll say this, man. It was my favorite movie from the day that I saw it when I was a kid. I mean, I was just. I remember. Well, I went and saw it with my best friend at the time, Jordan Farrell,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually a bigger fan of Batman Begins than I was. Like I was sort of. Like, I thought Batman Begins was cool, but it
Yeah.
didn't totally connect with me. But yeah, like I went and saw it with him at the theater, and our parents were there, too. But yeah, like it's definitely an amazing movie. I agree that it's overhyped, but I feel like
And I hate saying that it's overhyped because
I
it makes
know.
my top 11 movies. So I feel like I'm kind of overhyping it too. I think Heath Ledger's performance is
Yeah,
overhyped. I think that's really what it is. Which
yeah. I mean,
again, it's an
yeah.
amazing
He was immortalized by
performance.
his death.
Yeah,
But
but
well, here's the thing about the movie that holds it back for me, because it's not even. It wouldn't even be in my honorable mentions, to be
yeah,
honest. Is that I think as an experience when you're watching the movie, it all sort of makes sense to you. But then if you go back and actually try and say like, what is the actual plot of the movie? It's way too complicated. Like it's so hard to even like remember what is even going on. Like what events lead to what? Like the chain of cause and effect from scene to scene in that movie is really hard to follow. Like while you're watching it's not hard to follow obviously, but like in your mind when you're thinking back on it, like for me it just sort of it
it's a
doesn't
bit too
quite
convoluted.
yeah, I think it's too convoluted for its own good. I think like when it becomes, at a certain point, it becomes much more simple, and that's actually the part of the movie that's more memorable to me. Like when it's just like the Joker and Harvey Dent in the hospital.
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of like when Gordon comes back from that
yeah,
point
like
on.
after that,
It's
it
a much
becomes
more
much more
simple.
simple.
Yes. Yeah.
I think like all this stuff with him, like Morgan Freeman goes to Japan and like there's the phone interactions and then like they're like arresting all the guys and then like Batman is like disintegrating a bullet and like shooting a bullet into different bricks. It's just like what is even going on in that scene? Like I know that he like magically gets a fingerprint out of it or something, but it's like it makes almost no sense like what's actually going on.
That's true. The whole like the Batman being a detective thing doesn't
It
quite
it,
it doesn't
it
quite
yeah,
play in the
like
movie. It
I think Nolan was trying to be smart and make it seem like really really high tech, but he didn't explain what Batman was doing. Like there's not any dialogue that's like
But see, I like that. I'm
I don't
glad
know.
that they didn't try to explain it too much and that they just took it as accept because that's kind of where the superhero part came into me. It's like Batman just does things and it just works, right? Like because he has
Yeah,
superpower. His superpower is that he just does things and it works. You know, like
yeah,
in the third one, he just fixes the bat wing or whatever. You know, it's like the autopilot was broken and he just fixes it. Like it doesn't. You don't ever need to like talk about it or anything. That's just what he does. But like, you know, I do
yeah.
feel like the whole setup though lends the movie the chaotic feel that he was going for. Like and looking back on it, it
That's
feels like
fair.
a chaotic movie, and that's like that was kind of the point
That's
of
true.
the Joker is that he just wants chaos. Like that's the point of him besetting the city is just to cause chaos. So like I think it does stay true to the feeling, you know, that he was trying to elicit.
Yeah. The other thing I have to say is that it's almost like the Bible in the sense that like it's something that's so iconic that like there's all this other material that came out of it.
Yeah,
Like out of the Bible came like Paradise Lost, and then like that added a whole new dimension into Christianity that like just wasn't there before.
yeah.
I feel like The Dark Knight was so iconic that like it spawned the college humor skits, or skits, whatever you say.
Uh-huh.
Um, like all of the quoting of the line, like the memes that came out of it. Like
Yeah.
to me, like it's like in the year 2020, it's hard to watch the movie and just really
Be absorbed in just the movie.
yeah, because to me it's like there's all this lore around the Dark Knight now that it's hard for me to like separate it out.
Yeah. It's
Like the
become a bit
Batman
meta.
sketches are so good to me.
Yeah.
Like yeah, the one where he's like Harvey face, and then he's like scary face. Like
Two Face, what have you done to Harvey Face and Scary Face? Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I again I think it's a respectable pick, and thinking back to some of the scenes in the movie, like
And
um,
again, it's basic
it is
bitch, but
really
the
great.
whole some men just want to watch the world burn. I love Michael Caine and like him
Yeah,
delivering
yeah.
that monologue. I guess it's not really a monologue. It's still he's
No,
talking
it
to it.
is. I would say it
I
is.
think there's a couple questions, but it's basically a monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah, like him delivering that was like I really enjoyed that. There's just it's a good movie.
The
It's
scene where
well
Joker
done.
crashes the party is just brilliant. The way Nolan cuts between like the three different scenes that are happening,
Yeah, it,
it's
you know.
it's masterfully done for sure. So
Anyway, I think that's enough on the Dark Knight. But go ahead. What's your
okay.
next pick?
So my next pick is a movie that we've actually discussed, off the air recently, and that is Disney's Holes. Now you'll notice that I have the uh, Disney exclusive, and that's from when I sold my soul to the Disney Corporation, so that I could have exclusive access to Blu-rays such as this one. Because that is literally the only way to obtain this in high definition on physical media, unless you want to subscribe to Disney Plus, and which I don't. I
Get your whole
honestly, giving money to the Disney Corporation at this point is just painful to me. But I mean, I still gave them money for this, but like at least I have this now.
You don't have to keep giving.
Anyways,
money. Yeah,
that's sort of a different thing, but
it's a different conversation.
Anyway, if you want to know what that scam is, just look up this right here, the Disney Movie Club, and I'm telling you, it is. You sell your soul for
also
some cheap Blu-rays.
Just so you know, the bottom right corner of your screen can't be seen because of my face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
hopefully
right there. That's
Disney Movie Club. Yeah, that's how I obtained this, and I think it was only like $15 because it's a legacy title, but it definitely worth selling my soul to Disney for this. But so what makes Holes great? Well, I would have to say it's because it's the PG version of the Shawshank Redemption. I've always said that, and it to me. Well, I read the book as well when I was a kid after I had seen this, and the book is amazing too. It's such a complete story. Like, all the loose ends are just so perfectly tied up by the end of the movie. And we talked about this the other day, but for the sake of recording it, like, basically the entire point of the movie is that it turns, like, common plot devices into the point of the movie. Like, the whole idea is that Stanley's life is controlled by arbitrary powers. Like, it's such, like, movie, plot armor, basically.
Yeah.
But like, because that's the point of the movie, and like he has to just like change his luck by carrying the kid up the mountain, like it's just brilliant, and like the way it wraps together the story of kissing Kate Barlow with Sam, and he's like, I can fix that. Like,
honestly, the fact that Guster is, because I watched Psych too.
Yeah.
The fact that it's Gus, like going back and rewatching Holes is like, that's just Gus. Like that's just Gus hitting on a woman. Like,
yeah.
It's an
to me it's I wouldn't say that like thematically it says anything like terribly deep, but it's just so well, like, it's such a perfect piece of entertainment to me.
That's fair.
I don't know. It holds a special place in my heart for sure.
Yes.
And like him teaching Zero how to read. I'll mention this when I talk about my next movie, but it's like a trope of like a white person teaching a black person how to read in a movie that for some reason like connects with me on a deep level. Well, we'll talk about that more when we get to my next pick.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. What's my next? So the next one on my list is The Graduate.
Oh, nice, dude. Nice pick.
Did it make your list? It's an honorable mention.
It was hard for me to squeeze into the top 10 because my list is just so stacked to me. Like,
I mean, that's fair.
There's like 25 movies that I could talk at this level of detail about, and that I'm really passionate about. So, but yeah, I have the nice special edition, and it's
Miss
trying to get it without the glare. What? Yeah, it's
okay. Yeah, so this movie,
such a movie.
I didn't see it until after my mission, so I was like 21, 22. But
so when we watched this together, was the first time you saw it, right?
Yes, correct. And I'm glad I didn't see it before then. Like, I'm glad I didn't see it as a child, because I would not have appreciated it, for sure. Like, I'm glad that no one showed that to me as a kid, and I could just write it off as like, oh, that's a boring movie. Like, that's just boring,
Yeah.
kind of dry drama because it really is. It is dry and it's strange and like the scene of him just sitting under the water and the whole just apathy of the entire movie is such an interesting theme to just like basically the entire movie is just about not feeling anything. Like I feel like that's the whole premise. Is just lost, wandering, don't know what, it's the kid comes home from college and he doesn't want to do anything. He just went to college and now there's really no next step. And honestly, Simon and Garfunkel, like their music throughout the
Yeah.
movie is
I
amazing.
think The Sound of Silence plays like literally 4 times throughout the movie.
And the whole opening
It's great.
scene that is just the sound of silence and him just moving
And he's in the
along in the
airport.
airport, right? Like
It's an iconic shot.
it
Yeah.
is amazing. And then obviously the ending, like, and again, if you haven't seen The Graduate, highly recommend watching it. And I'm gonna spoil the ending for you
Yeah.
because it's from the '60s. But when they're driving away from the church and he stole her from the wedding, that shot
Well,
is
yeah.
is so
You don't
perfectly
even really have to spoil it.
encapsulates.
It's just
That's
like
true.
just the way that what's on their faces. It says it all.
Yeah, it perfectly
Yeah.
encapsulates the rest of the movie. To me, like
Yeah.
it is the perfect ending for that movie. Like it's I couldn't think of
Yeah.
any other way that movie could end that could be better. Which and that's part of why there are so few movies that have amazing endings. Like most of the time, endings just kind of have to fit the archetypical tropes just to be satisfying, right? Like if an ending doesn't fit with other endings that you've seen, it's not quite satisfying. It feels cheap almost. But like, and it
Yeah.
fits, right? Because he stole her, like he got the girl, right? Like, and that's the ending of rom coms, right? Like you get the girl at the end after, uh,
It's very subversive.
yeah. But it's hollow almost. Like he wins,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
still,
bittersweet. It's
yeah,
very bittersweet.
very bittersweet. Yeah, it's just a great ending. That's why it makes my list really. Like the rest of the movie, yes, fantastic. Simon and Garfunkel, wonderful. The whole Mrs. Robinson affair with an older woman, like it, it's a great bit. But the ending
Yeah.
really like sunk it in my mind as an amazing movie. So yeah, definitely Graduate.
It, yeah. For me, it actually completely changed the way I looked at this movie when I watched it with you because the first time I saw it, like my mom and my sister just randomly decided that they wanted to watch it with me too,
Uh
and they both thought that it was so boring
huh.
that by the time we had hit like how long is this movie? I think it's
It's like
like an hour and
210,
a half.
right? Isn't it?
An
Oh, is it?
hour 6 minutes. So that's
It's
like
that short?
40 an hour 45.
Oh,
Yeah, it's that
106
short.
minutes.
It
Okay.
feels longer than that.
That's true.
Um, but like by the time it had, I think we're at like the 1 hour mark,
Uh
and
huh.
they were like, "Is it over yet?" Like,
Uh huh.
and they just really didn't enjoy it. They didn't laugh at any of the jokes, and I thought it was a good movie. Like, I really enjoyed it, but because I watched it with them, and they were just so bored by it. Like, my sister
Uh
was just
huh.
like playing on her phone. I was like, huh. But then when we watched it together, and
We had
we
such a
both
good time.
laughed so much, and you realize when you're watching it with someone who's laughing how funny of a movie it is.
Uh huh.
And there's another movie on this list that
I
is
know.
the exact same way. You probably know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, like I agree with everything you said. To me, I think like the first 2/3 of the movie and the last third of the movie are quite different from each other, and that's a bit jarring. But it really shows you like how far people go before they realize how unhappy they are,
See, to me,
and that really is profound.
they do feel different, but it feels like a natural change. Like it's the
Yeah.
change that would happen to the character after the like he's apathetic for
After,
so
yeah,
long, and then suddenly he finds
they
this
hit like a
thing to
point of no
care.
return.
Yeah, and like he finds this thing to care about, and all of a sudden it's like a, you know, it's now a striving. It's a, he dedicates everything because there's only this one thing he cares about. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely.
Elaine! I love when he's like, Elaine! That's such a great moment.
It's
At the top of the church. The symbolism, it's just perfect.
it's
The whole
great.
thing. I'm glad you put that on your list. We got a chance to talk about it more because yeah, it's definitely an honorable mention for me. It's not super rewatchable, but it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, that's fair too. I have actually been wanting to rewatch it recently. There's a couple on this list. They may have only made this list because I haven't watched them in a little while, and I've been, having a hankering to do it again. But
Yeah, yeah. I think from our lists, I value the rewatch factor a bit more as
yeah,
far as like which ones are going like on this list because I wasn't really thinking of like what are the best movies I've ever seen. It's more
mhm.
of like what are the my personal favorites. More of
See,
it's kind of a distinction there in my mind,
to
but
me, movies in general, like the rewatch value is much more important to me in TV shows. And that's generally, I spend more
that's fair.
time watching TV shows, and those are, TV shows are usually more of my, like, just entertainment, just in general, sort of things.
Yeah,
And I feel like movies are the ones that are the best to me were the ones that, like, really had a big impact when I watched it. Because, they're short, they're
yeah,
sweet, they can kind of hit harder than the
yeah.
TV can. Anyway, next one on your list. What number are we on?
All right,
Let me
next
get
one.
keep
Now
track.
this, let's see, one. This is number 8. It actually might deserve a higher place on this list. I definitely the year that I was like 17, 18, I considered this to be like my favorite movie for like it was like a solid year and a half where I considered this to be my favorite movie. So I might have placed it a bit low on this list, but this Django Unchained. Now you know what I mean about him teaching a black person how to read.
Yeah.
And it really is just, it's a perfect Western movie to me. This is the Steelbook, so it's kind of cool. But
And
I own 6 copies of this movie on Blu-ray,
I
just
have
because.
one that you gave me.
Well, okay, so I probably own 5 now, but at a certain point, so I kept a tally mark of how many times I've watched it. So that looks like 13 times in the last basically like 3.5 years. So I think like 8 of those were in the first year. But what a movie, man! It's a movie that it's 2 hours 45 minutes long, and you feel the length of it, but you love it. That's the thing. Is like the ending. See, I think one of the things that most movies do is that the third act, like the entire ending of the movie, happens way too fast. Like a good example would be like Star Wars: A New Hope. Like the first and second act of that movie are like the first 85% of it. And
Yeah.
then the third act of the movie is just like let's have a space battle and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
This movie, the third act is like 45 minutes long, maybe 30 to 40.
It's pretty long, yeah.
It's pretty long, but it ties up all the loose ends. It gives you that entire experience you were looking for. There's a moment that where he turns back. Well, I guess I shouldn't spoil it too much, but
I mean, I think it's okay.
he turns back and looks um, after Schultz has been shot and he's laying in the barn. There, like the moment where he kind of like pays his respects. I feel like that's a sort of moment that you don't get from a lot of like the quicker endings that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's sort of a it takes its time with things in a really great way. But it's unlike any western that I've ever seen.
It's not a
Like
classic western.
the very first scene of the movie sets you up so well because it's like it's a quiet night in the middle of the desert and the strange guy walks up. You know, he is like very articulate and he's like using all these big vocabulary type of words and like it's just sort of a weird vibe. And then like all of a sudden like he shoots and kills like two people. You're like
Oh,
like
damn.
it's shocking
Yeah.
and it's a really great opening scene for like the rest of the movie. It's just
I mean, it kind
the
of
whole
got
thing is
like
great.
Quentin Tarantino in answer to the why do you have to use so much blood and gore in your movies. He said because it's fun. Like that's just
Yeah, it's fun. Like the
he just
shootout
likes
scene in
it.
this movie is great.
It
The like
is,
the real the climactic shootout is great. And like
and it's ridiculous, and it's
yeah,
over the top, and it's great.
it's probably of all the movies that are left except number one, it's probably the best like straight up hero's journey type of movie. Um, it just it's about a guy who starts out with nothing and makes it work. He
Yeah,
gets after it. There's not a lot in general that I can say like it's not that profound. It didn't like teach me a powerful lesson. It's just an amazing movie.
and yeah,
So
it has a great amount of comedy. It has good character
well,
moments,
we should mention that Don Johnson's comedy is unrivaled.
and honestly,
Like the delivery, well, the bag scene, the baghead scene is
the fact that Jonah Hill is in the movie
it's
for some
shockingly
reason,
good.
just like it throws me so much that Jonah
Yeah.
Hill is in that movie. Like he doesn't
Hold on,
seem
I'm
to
fucking with
fit.
my eye holes. Oh no, I made mine worse.
And my mom in general isn't like a huge fan of super bloody. Like they use the N word. Like it's a somewhat offensive movie,
Yeah,
and my mom loved it. Like she normally whenever we watch stuff like that, she's a bit prissy about it. She's like, oh, why does it have to be so. But she and the bag scene, like both of us, because we watched it together for the first time, we
yeah.
were just crying laughing during that scene because again it's so unexpected, like
It's
it's so
brilliant.
out of
It's brilliant.
place that it
Yeah,
and that's really
the
where the
tonal
comedy.
shift is so powerful.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess that's really the movie is constantly shifting from absurd like dramatic violence to a like absurd comedy, and it really makes
and
both of
then there
those
are like
things
some really
punch.
serious heartfelt moments as well.
Yeah, there's good drama too. But yeah, it really just makes it all punch the way
Yeah,
it shifts so quickly between those things. I feel like.
yeah. Great soundtrack as well. I mean, you have to say that with any Tarantino movie is that it has a great soundtrack. So yeah, it's a good one.
Okay, my next one is American Psycho.
Oh, okay.
Yes, which uh, again, it's not. It's a slow burn. It's definitely most
It
of it
is.
is just the narration from Christian Bale. Like it's a lot of monologuing from him. It's I
Yeah,
watched it when I was, I want to say 17, 18.
it's about when I saw it for the first time. Yeah.
And it's just so interesting. Like, it's hard to
Be careful
say.
what you say.
Yeah, it's hard to. the things that he makes significant, like his entire conversation about music, like
Huey Lewis in the News.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way he's describing Huey Lewis in the News, and like it's one of those movies where it's dry and it's a bit strange, but then there's absurd violence. Like it,
Yeah. There's see for me. There's a few great moments. It doesn't totally, as an experience, come together, but it's like the subtle off-white coloring,
yeah,
the
the
font,
business
the
cards.
tasteful thickness of it, breathtaking. Like he says something like that.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like, yeah, I would say that like the first half of it is really entertaining to me. The second half, it kind of loses me, to be honest.
The ending loses me a bit. The ending could have been better. I don't know how. You know, this
It
isn't like
goes for
a
this weird thing of like, did it really happen? Was it in his mind? Is
see.
it a satire about society? Like it, I don't know. You'd
Yeah,
probably have to read the book to get what they were trying to go for with that.
it did lose me a little bit in the ending. Like
Written by a woman as well, which is fascinating.
the fact that that's really what that's the kind of probably the worst part about it is just that I'm not a huge fan of the "did it really happen" ending. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it seems just a little. It does seem a little cheap, kind of like Inception. You know, the whole not necessarily cheap, but it's just it doesn't quite give me the conclusion I'm looking for. The whole "did it really happen?" But all the way up to that point, I thoroughly enjoyed just watching Christian Bale work. Like
it's the
that's
characterization that's great. It's not the
yes,
plot itself.
yeah,
It's just the character study. He just does it so flawlessly.
yes.
It
And it's
like
because of Christian Bale
yeah
for sure that it's like. And I'm not saying no other actor could have done it. Like yes, there are other great actors.
Christine, don't just look at it, eat it.
Yeah, it's just it's because of him. Yeah, it's because of who he is. It's definitely a character movie,
Yeah,
but I thoroughly enjoyed entering his life. Which,
yeah. I think yeah. What it suggests also is much more powerful at times than what it actually shows you. Like, because after
yes,
that scene where like he has the hookers over, you like sort of see them engaging in like some foreplay and stuff, but then it like kind of cuts to later on,
uh huh.
and like they're walking out of his apartment,
And
and
they
he's
look
like giving them
ashamed.
money.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they're like bloodied up too.
Yes. Yes.
So it's sort of like, well, I guess later on it does start to like actually show you things that he does, but it to me like what it suggests is much more powerful at times.
And honestly, the shot where he's just staring at himself in the mirror, flexing his bicep while pounding away from behind the
Yeah,
hooker,
that's
like
it's brilliant.
it's an iconic shot. Like it is, it's so great. Yeah.
That reminds me of the hotel movie that we
The
were talking
premise.
about.
Yeah.
The premise, yeah, yeah, yeah. It definitely wouldn't be in my honorable mentions. I think I've watched it once, and then I tried to watch it a second time, and I didn't finish it.
Mm.
But
I've watched it a few times. I watched it like
again,
three or
there's some
four
great moments in
times.
it to me that I can definitely see why you like it. But
All right, you're
okay,
up next. Number 7.
okay. So my next one would have to be, and this is the most recent addition
Mm.
to my list, I would say, The Big Short. I didn't consider this to be one
Man,
of my favorite
Christian
movies
Bale has
until
made a
recently.
lot of show.
This is a fantastic movie.
It
It
really
it
is.
blurs the lines between a documentary and a drama comedy type movie. It has a lot of documentary type elements in it. Um, for the folks at home that don't know, it's about the housing market crash. It's a true story, about what happened in 2007, 2008. And the reason that I think it connects with me at sort of a deeper level is that my parents lost their house in that housing market crash. So, like, there definitely is that aspect of it, like, to me personally, that's like, it kind of like has more of like you feel the stakes a bit more during the movie, I guess. But just in general, it's just a fantastic movie. The dialogue is so funny.
Yes.
Um, like Steve Carell's character is just great. Like, yeah, it's hard to say too much about it. It's just really well done.
Yeah, great dialogue. I do. It is an interesting, like the way they inform you. Like they cut from
Yeah.
the plot of the movie and just
Here's
say,
celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain to explain it to you.
yeah, and like or like here's I forget which model it is. It's some model or
It's
whatever.
Margot Robbie
Oh
in the
yeah, it's
tub.
Margot Robbie in a bathtub to it's like here's some entertaining thing to explain this concept of the housing
Yeah.
market to you. Yeah, it's I don't like to describe it as quirky because but it is. It's interesting and
Yeah.
it's just kind of strange. I see why that's in your top 11. It's definitely a very well done movie.
Yeah, I've
I also,
yeah,
I mean,
I watched
I
it the
love
year that it
Brad
came
Pitt,
out.
so
I think like I probably would have given it like a 7 out of 10 when I first saw it, but it's
uh-huh.
just it's something that I find myself coming back to and rewatching. I mean, we watched it when you were here,
Uh-huh.
and then I watched it again on the plane, and then like I had the urge to watch it again the other night.
Yeah,
So it's like,
it's one that like it you want to rewatch it for sure. It definitely has
yeah, the autistic
uh,
Christian Bale really hits the nail on the head for me
the
as well.
whole wandering eye thing he does.
Yeah,
It's great.
the
It's
fact that he can do that just
yeah, that
like
he's
that's
just
just something Christian Bale can do is
he is an
insane.
amazing actor. Like you have to hand it to him. He knows his work.
Yeah,
Yeah, the fact that he's able to just act like he has a glass eye and it works. It's kind of ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. Really, really great dialogue as well.
For sure.
The I would say the weakest characters in the movie are I forget what their names are. Charlie and
Yes. The
whatever I forget what his name is.
yeah, they're less
Um,
compelling.
those characters, it's sort of redeemed by the fact that their characters have one of the best scenes in the movie, which is that it's when they're dancing in the casino and they're like,
And
like we
Brad
just made the
Pitt.
trade of our lives, and then Brad Pitt is like, he almost has like an emotional breakdown, and it's like, you just bet against the American people, and he's like, and they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, it's like the best trade we've ever made, and he's like, which means if we're right, people lose jobs, people lose pensions, people lose retirement savings.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, here's a number. Every percent unemployment goes up. 40,000 people died. Did you know that? And he's like, no, I didn't know that. And Brad Pitt's just like, just don't fucking dance.
Yeah. See, I feel like their
Like,
characters are redeemed by Brad Pitt.
yeah.
I love Brad Pitt. He's you know I didn't discover him until later on in life. Like I always knew about him
He's
as
a
a
great
kid,
actor.
and like I've kind of put him into the same category as like Tom Cruise for some reason, where it's just like he's a really popular actor, but I don't really know why. As a kid, that was what I thought of him. It's just
Yeah,
like he's in like
I can see
action
that.
movies or something, and like he does
It's like
things.
Jessica
I'm like,
Alba. Like, what?
yeah, it's like what's she even in
What is
that's
she even in?
good?
Brad
Yeah,
Pitt has been in a lot of good stuff, though.
but he's made my top 11 actually. He's one of his movies are my top 11 too. So, and
Okay.
he's a major reason why.
I don't think I have another one of his on here. He's in Seven though as well, which is really good.
I considered 7. 7 would probably be an honorable mention for me just cuz the horror thriller it's one of the best of its kind.
Yeah, that's probably. I don't know if it really counts as being horror in my mind. It kind of does,
It
but
depends on what you mean by horror. I guess it's more strictly thriller. I guess it falls
yeah.
into
Well,
line with
I feel like these days horror just means any movie that has a jump scares in it.
Yeah, see, that's not. I guess yeah, it's more thriller than
It's
horror.
definitely there. There's a scene in that
See,
movie that is horrifying.
it's the gore and like the distressing that I consider horror. Like the jump
Yeah,
scares.
seven is one of the most distressing movies I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's distressing in the way that's not just disgusting. That's really
Yeah,
what makes it good. Is that it's disgusting for sure, but
it's
it's
disturbing.
also emotionally disturbing. Yes.
Yeah, but anyways,
Anyway, yeah, I love Brad Pitt, and I think part of the reason I love Seven so much is just because of Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. I mean, you do just fall in love with some actors, and it's
yeah,
Anyway, was that yours or mine? What did we?
that was mine. That was a Big Short.
Oh yes. Okay. My next one, I don't think you would have even considered. Probably Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail, which,
It's definitely nowhere near. That's probably not even my top 100 movies ever. But
which,
go on.
damn. But, and again, this is one of the ones formative in my experiences of comedy. Like I watched it as a young kid and enjoyed it, and it's just the British ridiculous humor really set a tone for a lot of the comedies that I would enjoy, and
Yeah,
it's meta, like it's self-referential, and it is intelligent. There is, like there is absolutely stupid humor, but there is also some witty humor, like
there is some clever stuff for sure.
the
Yeah,
fact that the rabbit just kills people, like it's just stupid. It's just it's just like there's a fucking rabbit and it's just biting people's necks out. Like it's not clever. It's just ridiculous. But the whole,
yeah,
like the Black Knight who's unwilling to give up even though his arms are chopped off, and like the whole Monty Python reasoning that's become a thing where if a woman is lighter than a duck, she's a witch. That whole
yeah.
logical construct where you just tie random things together. eh, All of it really just came together for me. I enjoy the whole movie. The fact that the movie ends with just the coppers coming in and arresting everyone on the
That's
set
so stupid.
because of a murder, like it's so
So dumb.
anticlimactic, and it
I
really
remember seeing
just,
that as a kid and being like,
what the hell is happening? Yeah, like it makes no sense. Like, but like you get the scenes earlier on where the coppers are investigating the murder of the professor or whatever, and like it
I
works.
don't totally remember that.
Yeah, so like there's
See, the thing is, like, even when I saw the movie as an 8-year-old child, we couldn't just sit and watch the whole thing through. Like,
no.
I've never seen it in more than like 30 or 40 minute chunks. I just can't handle it for an entire hour and a half or however long it is. Like, it's too much for me.
And like the peasant who's arguing about the oppressing of a political government. Yeah, it's all great for me. I love it.
I haven't seen it in a long time, so
I would say it'd be a good one to rewatch in its entirety. You know,
I could imagine if I was really plastered, I would enjoy it.
I see. Probably.
Like, but me and my sober mind is just like
I don't know. The
it's under the
peasant
category of not for me, I think.
look and
But
being oppressed. Like it's just, it's great.
it has great moments for sure. Yeah,
See, and that's the thing. There are definitely duller moments as well. The whole nun thing, it gets lost because it's all British, pussy jokes. Like all of the names of the nuns are just different names that British people call, call
yeah,
vaginas. And like that was completely lost on me as a child, obviously,
yeah.
because I didn't understand any of the terms they use. Like none of them were familiar, but so there is some of it that just kind of goes over your head as an American. But anyway, yeah, definitely top 11 for me.
I would probably need to rewatch that one to give it a fair shake. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's been a while, so I do remember in high school one time, one of my teachers started playing it, and I was just like,
And I do feel
I don't
like
know.
people feel like they're too good for it. It's the stupid humor too. It's like,
See, I don't feel
yes,
like that. It's just,
well, maybe not that they're too, but like you do have to just give in to the stupid humor. Like definitely,
see,
it's
I feel
not
like the
all
stupidity
witty.
isn't what I have a problem with. Like, I can watch Napoleon Dynamite, and I have a totally different reaction to it. It's just, it's the amount, it's the amount of nonsense that, like, it's hard for me to handle. Like I said, like 90
Okay,
minutes of it straight is just hard to sit through.
that's fair. It is also the whole like cuts in between with the weird animations. I feel like that throws people off too, because you do just have random animations of like clouds growing legs and things, and it's kind of like mocking the whole
Yeah.
designs that are on old books, like all the illustrations that decorate old texts and things like that. But it's
It's an interesting pick
it's an
for your list.
experience.
Okay. Well, my next movie is, you know, just, it's closer.
Okay.
And see, this movie to me is one of the best comedies ever. Like, I think most people are too depressed by this movie to be entertained by it, but to me, it's really entertaining.
I would say
Like,
upon rewatching, it's more entertaining than the first time you see it.
see, to me, I loved it. Like, it almost works to me as like, I think the last time I watched it, I wasn't actually looking at the screen. I was just listening to it and doing something else. Like, it almost works as like a radio production
Yeah.
because it
I
doesn't
mean,
really matter what the characters are doing. They're
it's pretty
just
much
sitting
all
and talking for
dialogue.
the most part.
Yeah.
It was a stage play before it was a movie. But Clive Owen also is just he's one of he's a very underrated actor to me. But
It's fair.
the plot for the folks at home, it basically like is about a group of people who continually cheat on each other with the other people in the group.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like a continual group of friends, but it's just like these four people who know each other across time, and their relationships are intertwined. Like, it feels like every scene is just so it's like a bombshell gets dropped on you. It like the stage play structure of it really like is apparent because you go from like one scene where they're doing this and it's like a long conversation, and then you just
Yes.
skip forward like 4 or 5 months into the future and it's just another conversation. And
Yes.
to me,
It
it's like each one of those individual scenes is just so impactful that it really like amounts to being something special to me.
it definitely, yes, it's a play for sure. Like
Yeah,
you can definitely get that, and I think that does make the dialogue better, or like it makes the dialogue more important, right? Because in plays, setting is less important in
yeah,
general.
yeah,
Setting is more just, you know, it just gives you a place to have a dialogue or a
yeah.
monologue even. But yeah, it
But the best scene in the movie is when Clive Owen is interrogating Julia Roberts, and he's just like he's just questioning her about like exactly what happened when she was having sex with um, Jude Law, his character.
what did he taste like?
You're like, I'm coming in your face. I love it. What did it taste like? He tastes like you, but sweeter. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Now fuck off and die. You fucked up slag. Like,
It's a
no
great
other
scene.
movie will you hear something like that, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, why do you
and
want to know?
again, to
Because I'm a
me,
fucking caveman.
because
Yeah,
I'm a
it's
fucking caveman. But yeah, it's just to me again, it's really entertaining. Like sexual infidelity is not something that I have like a personal like. It doesn't like trigger like traumatic memories for me.
yeah.
So like I could understand why like if someone who had been cheated on saw this movie, it would be like really hard for them to handle. But for me, it's just really entertaining.
And the whole like the strip club scene where Clive
That
Owen is
is brilliant.
interrogating like it is a
The
it's a
stripper, yeah.
it's a brilliant movie. It is. I agree with you. It is very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's one I should watch again. It's been a while. I haven't seen it since that one time we watched it together.
Okay. Yeah.
But
It's yeah. It's great.
it's another one of those, the people aren't happy during the movie and it doesn't end happy either. It's just kind of
No,
it's just
it's
miserable
tragic
people.
the whole way
Yeah,
through.
it's a tragedy through and through.
I would say the characters all have flat character arcs. Like none of them change pretty much at all.
Yeah, not really.
They just
No,
continue to make worse and worse decisions.
it's not even worse and worse. Almost, it's just it's kind of a looped movie. Like it kind of
Yeah,
starts where it ends.
it's cyclical. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's definitely an underrated movie. I don't think it's one that probably most people have even heard of.
yeah. It
Um,
definitely. I didn't. I hadn't heard of it before you told me about it.
well, the way I heard about it is from the Fall Out Boy song "Thanks for the
Oh
Memories,"
yeah.
where he says that
Tastes
line, "He
like
tastes like you
you,
but
only
sweeter."
sweeter. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if you're a fan of that song,
Where the
there's
line comes
actually
from.
other I think there's a Panic at the Disco song too called "Lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off."
And that's a line from
That's a
Closer,
line from
isn't it?
this movie as well. So yeah, that's closer.
It does. Yeah, it has great lines for sure. Like there are a lot of great lines in
Yeah, the dialogue is again like there is no other movie you will see where they discuss the things that they discuss in this movie. Like
it.
it's almost not even talked about. Like infidelity
Yeah,
in relationships is just not discussed the way it is in this movie. So that I mean to me that's the part about it that's fascinating. But
all right, my next pick. So a couple of these. This next one is uh, almost purely for childhood reminiscence. It's School of Rock, which is a
oh,
Jack Black movie. And for those of you
I
who
know
don't
it.
know,
Yep.
the basic premise of this movie is Jack Black is an unsuccessful rock star. He's had bands over the years and has never made it. And his roommate is a substitute teacher, and he gets a call, and he fills in for his roommate, unbeknownst to his roommate, at this private school where he teaches the children to play rock music,
Yeah.
which
Because
it's
that's the only
about.
thing he knows how to teach. It's the only
Yes,
thing that he knows anything about
yeah.
is rock music.
So basically, it's about the premise you'd expect from a Jack Black movie. I mean, it's
The thing is that Jack Black isn't even acting in that movie. He's just saying the lines as himself.
yes,
Like,
it's one of those movies where you feel like it's just Jack Black. Yes, he plays true to himself. But I watched this movie at least a
yeah,
hundred times. Like
really,
at least, yeah. I would say I watched it two
wow,
or three times a week for a year. Like, and I do have an obsessive personality, so that's just a
wow,
kind of a
that's a
given.
lot.
Yeah, I watched it. My brother also loved it, so it was an easy medium. Like sharing the family screen is like, okay, we can. This is a movie that we all can agree on. So that's part of why we watched it a lot, just for
Yeah.
agreeableness sake. But like, I enjoyed it every time we watched it. It wasn't like I was sick of it.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's the humor. It's Jack Black. Like it's not really a special movie all that much, but it
It sounds
just
a lot like the relationship me and my siblings had with She's the Man.
yes,
Because we
it
watched that movie probably like, yeah, like 100
it's
times.
it's a simple story arc. Jack Black realizes that he needs to care more about the kids by the end of the movie, and the school realizes that this horrible person who's been lying to them is actually doing something good for the kids by teaching them to rock. Like it's straightforward, it's campy, it's a family movie, but I
Sarah
really
Silverman
just
as the love interest, I have to say, is a fail for me.
she's not the
But
love interest. She's the
she's not?
villain. She's the villain. She's his
I
roommate's
thought she was.
fiance. No, no, she's his roommate's fiance who is a bitch the
Okay.
whole time and is like
Okay.
telling his
Oh,
roommate
well,
to stop
she
rocking.
works in that role.
Yes, she works as a bitch. The love interest is the headmaster. And actually, I need to look up this actress. I can't remember her name. Let me look her up real
I can
quick.
I can look it up if you want.
I got it pulled up right here. It's just,
Okay.
but like she's I know her from this, but I like her because of it. Apparently, they made a TV series out of it. That's it's Joan Cusack. Yeah, that's her name.
Okay.
Yeah, which she's the love interest, headmistress sort of thing, and
Interesting.
it's not a romance though. Like the love
No, yeah,
interest thing
that's
is
not really the important
very
part of it.
much like it's very underplayed. It's not a major part of the movie really at all. He more just kind of uses her to get the kids to go on a field trip. Like it's more just they kind of become friends sort of thing. It's not too much of a love interest.
Yeah.
But like Sarah Silverman is the one that calls the cops on him, so she definitely fills the villainous bitch
Okay.
role. But she's the one who's trying to kill the spirit of rock, you know. And Jack Black just
Yeah.
wants to rock. So yeah,
Interesting. I would have never guessed that would be in your top 11,
yeah.
but
And the music, I enjoy the music throughout. Like I can still remember the song that they play at the end. It's
I can kind of remember the chorus of it a little bit, but
yeah. So that's one of my you might not enjoy it if you watch it, but if you watched it as a kid, it was probably pretty good. Top picks.
that's fair. Yeah, I have a very similar relationship with She's the Man. Like,
Did that make your
I
top
although
11?
no, it's not, but and I don't have it on disc, so it didn't occur to me as an honorable mention, but
Mm.
that's a great movie. So my next one is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay.
It's a classic. It's honestly, I think I saw my dad showed this to me when I think I was 8 years old, and it opened up the world of possibilities to me as to what a movie could even be. Like, well, him breaking the fourth wall is the most obvious example of that, but
Uh-huh.
like his entire opening monologue is just I feel like a lot of it went over my head as a kid, but I was like, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah. It's like what he's saying is important, even if you don't understand it.
it's it's just one of the best coming of age movies ever that there is. Like, I think it perfectly encapsulates that feeling of freedom that you have as a teenager, but that you like the clock is ticking and you know that you're about to lose that, you know?
Yes.
And like I think the scene that really like I don't know if I would say it's the best scene in the movie, but probably the best bit of dialogue in the movie is when Ferris is on the float and he's singing Donkashane, and Cameron and Sloane are talking. And you haven't really seen Cameron and Sloane be just alone with each other for the entire movie up to this point.
Yeah.
And
They're both
Cameron is
just
just
friends
going,
of Ferris.
yeah, basically. And Cameron's just going, I don't get it, man. Like, he can do anything. I don't get it. And like, I can't do anything. Like, I just freak out and, like, I just can't do it. And he's like, I forget exactly how the conversation goes, but it's like, they're talking about what they're gonna do when they grow up, and he's like, well, I guess I'll just go to college. And she's like, to study what? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, what are you interested in? He just was like, nothing.
Nothing.
And like that really, like, I felt that, you know?
Yeah.
Because like there was such a long time for me where I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to be, like, when I grew up.
Yes.
And you just reach a point where you're like, I'm not really interested in anything, I just have to pick something.
Yes.
And yeah, like I thought that was great. But yeah, the whole movie to me is, it's just fantastic.
It would go
Ferris
to my
Bueller
honorable mentions.
Ferris Bueller is, it's the person that all the girls want to be with and all the guys want to be him.
Yes.
You know. And I feel like it was good, especially for me, to have him as like almost a role model type figure when I was like 8 years old.
That's fair. You know, he's got some big dick energy.
I feel like a lot of my charisma that people have seen me to had, or like I've definitely have charisma.
Yes.
I think a lot of it came from the fact that when I was a kid,
You emulated
I
Ferris
saw-
Bueller.
well, I don't know if I could trace it directly back to Ferris, but it's like, I think it clued me into like how charismatic a person could be if they tried. So yeah, I mean, it's a perfect 80s movie. It's very of its time, but
Yes. It does lose me a little bit with the ending. You know, the ending is just the ending. You know, it's over. You know, like,
well,
he
Ferris
succeeds.
fundamentally does not change at all as a character.
Yes.
Cameron is the one who has the character arc. So the movie sort of ends with Cameron's like,
With his
he
last
has like a
stand.
cathartic
Yeah,
moment, but then like the last like 10 minutes after that are just sort of like some shenanigans that Ferris is getting into.
Yeah, like, you just have to resolve
So,
the whole Ferris skipped school thing. Like, that
yeah.
just has to kind of be tied up to, you know, wrap it up. Yeah.
Although it does give you the resolution with the sister as well, which I think is
I do love that the sister
valuable.
just makes out with Charlie Sheen in the
Yeah,
police station.
and he's so strung out. Like, he looks, I'm pretty sure when they filmed that he hadn't slept in like 2 or 3 days or something, and he looks awful.
He looks exactly like he hasn't slept for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, like his eyes are just like black underneath his eyes.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Great movie.
Okay, my next pick. So this is the Brad Pitt one.
We're getting into serious territory. We're in top 5 territory for me personally. I mean, I know yours aren't in order very
Yeah,
much.
mine weren't in a particular order. I think we actually only have like 3 left. We've done.
I have 4 left, so I might have miscounted.
We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
We've done 7, so we should have 4 left
6.
if we're doing a top 11.
7. Yes. Okay, my next one is Burn After Reading.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure if you have seen it or not, but the premise of the story is that John Malkovich works for the CIA, and he loses this critical information, which is found by Brad Pitt, who is just a cycling instructor at a gym. And, like, And like he just works at a gym, and his
Yeah.
boss, and I forget who the female lead in it is, but him and his boss try to blackmail John Malkovich, to get money
Okay.
because she wants liposuction or something like because she wants to look better for dating apps. So they want to blackmail him to get this money for this information. And I love Brad Pitt and I love John Malkovich and like Brad Pitt, not just, I guess it's a bit of a spoiler, he ends up dying. You know, if I remember correctly, he's killed in the course of the shenanigans that ensue. And like they involve the Russian government and like it's a ridiculous movie and like John Malkovich is
Yeah.
just this hateful person like in a bad marriage and like
Yeah.
the CIA director that he talks to is incompetent or like just they don't really know what's going on. Like it's a ridiculous movie with such, but it has like some really serious parts, but the characters are all ridiculous. Is kind of how it plays, and it's just it's a great romp. It's definitely a romp and a riot. So I would suggest it again. I love Brad Pitt and John Malkovich. Like anytime and that movie really epitomized who John Malkovich is to me. Like I feel like he really played
Okay.
himself in that movie. Like that, and he's acerbic. That's not a word I
Yeah.
use much, but
I know what you
yeah,
mean. Yeah.
it's great. He's really just he and I think he's writing. If I remember correctly, he's trying to write his memoirs at the same time of being a CIA person. There's just a lot going on, and it really plays
Yeah.
well. But yeah, so
Haven't seen it,
it's the
unfortunately.
movie with the scene at the start of the movie. John Malkovich is like they're talking about firing him, and he's in the office with someone else, and someone accuses him of like the guy, his counterpart or whatever, like his peer, is talking to the boss. And he's like, "You're an alcoholic," and he's like,
Oh
John
yeah, yeah.
saying,
I've seen
"You're a
that.
Mormon. Compared to you, everyone's an alcoholic." Like just that energy is really it's a
Yeah.
good energy.
I think I might have watched like the first 10 minutes of that, and then I got distracted or something. I'm not sure.
I can see that.
I
Yeah,
definitely have seen that scene though, at least.
yeah. I like it. So yeah, top 11. I'm surprised we haven't had too much overlap. We have, overlap and honorable mentions, but
I don't think we've had any
yeah,
overlap
we
so
haven't had
far.
any. All right, you're up next.
Although we're getting into my favorites, so you might. I'm not sure. Well, I think there's two of them on here that are contenders to be on yours as well.
Okay.
One of which is When Harry Met Sally.
Yes, that's on mine.
So now there was a point in time where we had a group of friends who were females, and we tried to explain to them what Billy Crystal, what Harry explains to Sally at the start of this movie. It's basically the premise of the movie, which is that men and women fundamentally can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way. And she's like, "Well, what if what if the girl doesn't want to have sex with you?" And he's like, "It doesn't matter because the sex thing is already out there." And like I don't know, it's just it's a perfect rom-com for one. I mean, you really get the sense that they actually get to know each other over a long period of time, and that their relationship is not forced at all. Like
Yes.
it basically they're not friends for like 10 years, and then finally like they're both at a point in life where they can just be friends, and they're both so like they're both basically grieving from their breakups that they've just had, and so they're not ready for a new relationship really.
Yes, and they can just be friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an amazing movie. Like it really, all the scenes are actually like quite quite strange if you think about them one by one. Like there's just a scene where like they're walking through a museum randomly and talking, and like then there's another scene where they're like in a bookstore. Like all the scenes are just of them like doing random things together,
Yeah.
basically.
It's just like random everyday encounters.
It's a yeah,
Most of it to
it
start
has a
with.
very everyday feeling to it, the entire movie. And then what's like a really brilliant part of it is that every so often it cuts back to these like interview shots where they're talking to like old people who have been married for a long time, and they're like talk about how they met and stuff.
Yes.
And like some of those are just brilliant as well. It's like we were in small village. We were to have arranged marriage, and so I go to look at her. I think if I don't like her, I do not marry her. But she looked very nice to me. Like,
Yeah.
there's just great moments in there. But one of Carrie Fisher's only notable roles in my mind, apart from Star Wars, and Carrie Fisher is really great in this movie. So is the sidekick guy. I think what is that guy's name? I think he was in Friends too, right? Or not
Um,
Friends, Seinfeld.
yeah, I want to say Seinfeld. Let me
Um,
see.
no, maybe no. I was thinking of George Costanza. No, it's not the same guy. But anyways, though, it's a perfect, it's a near perfect movie about relationships. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
And the fact that it was written by a woman is what's most fascinating about it to me, because like I was saying, like the premise of that men and excuse me, like can't speak, men and women can't be friends. The only people who I've ever encountered who actually believed that were all men.
Yes. Yeah. I've explained that to many women, and not a single one believed. Not a single one agreed with that statement.
So the fact that a woman is the one who wrote this movie is just astonishing to me. And the way the movie originally ended, they didn't end up together.
Yeah, the
Like
original
in her
screenplay.
original screenplay, the whole point was that they weren't at the like together at the end. Which I mean, as far as the movie goes, I like the way that they did do the ending where they end up together.
Yeah, it plays well.
But either way, it's fascinating that a woman. I'm sure to a lot of people it seems sexist that there's such a distinction there, but
And that's
it
just
really is a concept that like I've never encountered a girl who honestly believed this
I think
in the same way that guys believe it.
the sexual tension in a friendship is much more noticeable in general from the man's end. Like in general,
I
men
mean, the
are
friend zone, yeah, is a thing for a reason.
yes, and it's much more likely to happen to men than women
It's like
because
simp,
men are
the
more
simp thing.
oriented towards sex. But that's just.
I think they're more outwardly oriented toward it.
Yes.
I feel like women are oriented toward it just as much. It's just a more internal thing.
Well, it's also just
It's more suppressed.
women also feel like they can interact with men without sex more than men feel like they can interact with women without sex. In general, what I've found
Yeah.
to be the case.
I mean, most of the movie ends up not really being about that. It's just about these people's relationship. Like a lot of the dialogue is just about
I mean, yeah, like you
them
have
talking
the
to each other.
great Ethiopian food joke. Like
Yeah.
there's good comedy in there. We went to an
You
Ethiopian
made a
restaurant,
woman meow?
and
I
then
took it to a different level. It wasn't even human.
there is the great, fake orgasm in the diner scene too, which
I,
classic.
see, I have watched this movie with people who absolutely lost, like, they they dissociated and they just like exited their body during that scene.
Like it was so embarrassing for them just watching it on screen.
I've watched it with my parents and with my grandmother, and I still thought it was hilarious. Yeah, it's a great movie.
It is. Yeah, it made my top 11 as well.
So
So,
I don't know if you had any
okay.
other comments about that. I was kind of dominating the conversation about that, but
No, you hit most of the points. I mean,
it's just really well done.
and again, just the whole premise, men and women can't be friends. I do really enjoy you know, it shows them meeting several times over the years and like
Yeah,
their lives change a lot. Like it starts out them graduating
yeah.
and going to, postgraduate school. Like both of them kind of, or he's going for a job and she's going for postgraduate school, something like that. And
They're
then
just driving to New York together, basically,
yeah, and like they just meet in college is the idea, and then years later they meet again when both of them
on
are
an
married, and
airplane.
then years later they meet again when they've broken up with their significant others. Yeah, so like it is nice that you
Yep.
see the relationship develop over the course of
Yeah,
years.
it's more than any other rom com I've ever seen, or just romance in general. It really shows like an actual development of a relationship between people.
Yes, and it's not a they
It's
just
not
fall for each
contrived.
other sort of. Yeah, it's not like he sees her and falls in love.
Yeah,
Because that's not how it works.
I mean that's how projection works. But that's not how
Yes,
a real relationship works.
correct. Okay, let's see here. So you
Okay,
stole
so
one
that
of
was on your
mine.
list as well. So do
It,
I just go again?
if you'd like, yeah, you can just go again. That way we're back up to the same point. I don't think the rest of my three will be. Oh no, there's only two more that I have. Yeah. So
Well, if you only have two more, then yeah, I need to go again.
yes, you go again.
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned before Jackie Brown. So yeah, no, this is another Tarantino movie, and the fascinating thing about this movie to me is that you spend like the first 45 minutes with the villain, not the main protagonist. Um, like you actually have much more information about the bad guy, and then it's not until like later on that the movie sort of like changes focus onto being from Jackie's point of view. And I think the fact that the movie gives you all these different perspectives, but it sort of presents them to you like almost like equally as like being equally as valid. Like you still
Hmm.
sort of root for Jackie because she's like in a tough spot in life and she really doesn't deserve the bad things that have happened to her.
Hmm.
But Ordell is still like it's Samuel L. Jackson. Like you want to root for Sam, you know.
Yeah.
Like you gotta root for the Jackson, you know. And his hair in this movie is amazing. Like whoever did his hair and wardrobe
Yeah.
probably took some drugs before they made this decision, but it worked. And I think it's Tarantino's only movie that's based on like previously written material. It's based on a book by Elmore Leonard. Um, and I think that gives it a different feel than his other movies that some people are not satisfied by. Like it's not like Pulp Fiction really at all.
No.
Like if Pulp Fiction is a string of firecrackers, this is like a candle.
Yes.
Or a warm fire, maybe. But it's like and this is that it's definitely a really slow burn. Like it feels like a long movie.
There's not nearly as much absurd violence as any of his
There's
other
almost no
movies.
violence in the movie.
Yeah, like he
Pretty much
shoots.
all of it is off screen.
like he shoots a girl. Like a girl gets
That's
shot,
a brilliant moment.
which is really funny. Like it, but like that's the only like, and there's a little bit of almost choking. Like people hold guns on each other, but there's not a lot of violence, which it does
No.
make it very different from his other movies. I would have to say I'm not a huge fan. So yeah, it follows Ordell, which is Samuel Jackson, who's
Yeah.
basically the bad guy, and then Jackie Brown. I don't know the actress, but
Pam Grier.
Pam Grier, and she is up with this like bounty hunter guy. He's not a bounty hunter. He's a bail bondsman,
Dale Bondsman, yeah. Yep.
and they are like setting up this kind of. It's kind of like a heist movie in that they're trying to get one over on Ordell and the
It's
FBI.
more of a con type of movie than
Yes,
a
it's
heist.
a con type of movie. That's it. And like personally, I feel like I enjoy the Ordell bits much more than Jackie Brown and the bail bondsman. Like Jackie and the bail bondsman, they don't do it for me. I really enjoy Ordell and his
Yeah.
sidekick and the girl and like the surfer chick and like all of them interacting. That really
The
is
scene
entertaining
where
to me.
Robert De Niro just like
Yes, it's De Niro. That's right.
he humps her a bit for like 2 minutes and then finishes is just
It's
she's like, well, that was fun. Like,
yeah. It's like
you want a smoothie? Like,
yeah, them three I
yeah,
enjoyed much more than Jackie Brown, the bail bondsman. So that's why for me it's a bit too slow. I feel like it actually would have been
yeah,
better if there was less about the bail bondsman. Really loses me. Like his
really.
character, he just doesn't really interest me at all. He, he just he doesn't really do it for me. So
Speaking of The Graduate, the opening shot of this movie is a direct recreation of the
reference,
shot from The Graduate.
yes.
I was thinking about that when we were discussing that earlier. But yeah, like I this might like it's near the top of my list right now. I can definitely see it going down my list, even though I still really like it. Um, what I think it really nails is the bittersweet ending. Like
Yeah,
to me, I think it like I remember when I first saw it, I was almost confused by it, but then I like kept thinking about it for like the next like week. I was just like continually thinking about this movie, and I was like,
yeah. I think
it's
because I've
interesting.
never really connected with the bail bondsman too much, the ending was a bit
Yeah,
lackluster for
yeah,
me.
I like his character a lot. I think he adds a lot to the movie. Like he adds like a certain amount of like pragmatism to it that's I think is really an interesting dynamic.
See, I feel like maybe I just don't like the actor that much. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Like,
I don't mind him.
it's hard to separate sometimes whether you just don't aren't enjoying the performance or if the actual character itself you don't enjoy. I think it's kind of a combination of the two. I don't know. Maybe he just yeah. I just never
Well,
quite
he's
connected
playing
with
sort of
him.
an old tired guy, and so
Yeah,
on screen sometimes you're just like this is just like a tired feeling guy.
yeah,
I don't know.
but I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, like in this very moment, I definitely don't know if it's worthy of being number three above all these other ones. But I don't know. I think the characters are really. It's well like Quentin Tarantino said he was trying to make like a hangout movie
Hmm.
like Rio Bravo, which is one of his favorite movies,
Okay.
and like I really get it from that point of view of like you can just sit down on like a Friday night and just go into this world and it's almost like you're hanging out with these characters.
Okay.
Like since Tarantino was like that's the vibe I'm going for, I was like I feel that. You
Yeah.
know. It's definitely it's I think the fact that it is a Tarantino movie makes it disappointing for a lot of people.
That's fair. Yeah, they're expecting something different.
It really is nothing like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir
Reservoir
Dogs
Dogs
or
or
Kill Bill or any
Django
like it's
or
so different
yeah,
from those movies.
it is.
So I
Inglorious
think if it was directed
Bastards.
by like Rob Reiner or like
I also feel like it's a
you
bit
know
too long for people.
it's really slow. It's definitely a bit long.
Yeah.
But again, like the fact that he did that on purpose, like I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Especially after watching Rio Bravo, it made me like this movie more
Okay.
because like you kind of get what he's going for. But it's definitely not for everyone.
So my next one is
Oh,
Hercules,
oh.
the animated Disney.
Something just fell on my leg. I don't know what it was. Sorry, go on.
No, yeah, no problem. Because, well, one, it introduced me to Danny DeVito, who is one of my favorite people.
I
But
should have known. As soon as you said Hercules, I should have known.
which uh, Danny DeVito has never had a performance which I disliked. Just throwing that out there. Like I can't think of a single time I've seen him. I just watched Screwed also, which is Dave Chappelle and Norm Macdonald and Danny DeVito. It's from like 2000. It's which it's a ridiculous movie. I thought it was done like 40 minutes in, and then there was another hour. It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's an insane comedy. But I love all the I love Norm Macdonald. Anyway, for
Yeah.
Hercules, it and like Hades as a sassy villain, like this is another one of those. It really helped me form my concepts of comedy. Like
Interesting.
Phil, Danny DeVito was just this lascivious satyr. Like he was always ogling the women, but he was still like a good trainer. Like Hercules, it's the whole he got what he wanted, but he wasn't satisfied. Like he was a hero, but he still wasn't like he wasn't allowed to become a god yet. Like that whole like where he's like
Yeah.
conquered everything and he's done everything he possibly can, but still for some reason the gods aren't accepting him. Right, like that whole the divine mandate where you're just trying to get heaven to accept you. Like I get it's a kids movie and like it's kind of like how Avatar is a kids show, but it still has some profound concepts in a displayed in a childish way or like in a way that children could digest. That's kind of what Hercules is for me, like it displays some concepts in a way that children could digest that are a bit more profound. But it's still just a smash 'em up. He fights the Hydra, and there's childish comedy. But Phil
Now,
really sells it for me. Phil and
is this
Hades.
like you enjoy it to this level now, or when you
I
were a kid, it
I
shaped you a lot?
I still enjoy it. Like I
Really
still watch it. I like the music. I'm a sucker for the old Disney.
interesting.
The old Disney music. Like I was considering Mulan just because like
Okay,
Mulan's an honorable mention for me because the music and the storyline is so fundamental to me that like if I saw it today, no, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But it's such a fundamental part that I can't separate enjoying it anymore.
interesting.
I still enjoy it. Like I watch it probably once a year, sort of thing, and like I still enjoy it every time I see it. But
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I've seen it once, and it was like I think I watched it when I was 17, when I was on my binge of watching a bunch of new movies,
yeah, yeah.
and
I think you have to see
I
it
thought it
as a
was like
kid.
well made. Like I thought it was a competently made animated movie, but it wouldn't even be in my top 5 Disney movies. I don't think. I'd put The Incredibles above it.
Oh,
I'd put
really?
The Little Mermaid above it.
Little Mermaid's pretty
I
high
would
up
put
there.
Aladdin above it.
Aladdin's good. I don't know. Hercules just
I put the Lion King above it.
it
Like so
really hit
many,
me. Like
but
so many.
yeah, I remember enjoying it. It didn't. There was nothing about it I don't remember that really connected with me, like on a personal level.
I feel like Hades really connected with me. Like the
Yeah,
whole
the Danny DeVito thing, like I'm not as convinced.
I I do really like the lascivious
That
old
character
man.
is like somewhat annoying to me, so
Oh, okay. See, and
it
like
doesn't.
I like that Hades was mostly frustrated with the incompetence of his minions. Like most of his character was like things should be going well because I'm a mastermind, but my minions' incompetence keeps thwarting me, which it really played for me.
Yeah, I can see it. Like I think a lot of it is just the childhood influence, though.
Yeah, for sure. It's because I watched it a lot as a kid too. But like
Yeah,
I watched Aladdin a lot and Mulan and Little Mermaid and
and it's interesting that that one sticks out for you, though. Yeah, because yeah,
again, I mean, it's also the hero's journey. Like it's you know ex-
yeah,
precisely the hero's journey, pretty much. He delves into the underworld to save to save his love, and then he ends up choosing humanity and love over God. Right? Like it's
yeah, yeah.
it brings some lessons home that were much more profound to me than the other Disney movies. Like it's still
Interesting.
a love story, but I liked the element of the gods being direct things that he communicated with. Like that whole element of it really stood out to me as well.
Interesting.
Which maybe that's also part of the religious upbringing, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't totally remember with enough clarity to like really think about it in depth, but
it's
I remember
fair.
liking it.
It's a good movie. Yeah, like I mean, Lion King. It teaches just as profound things. It's about the self and about becoming a king and being a person people can rely on and the ancestors speaking to you. Like there are plenty of Disney movies that have profound messages that are digestible by children. But yeah, Hercules is the one that
Yeah,
really stands out to
interesting. Yeah, I disagree, but
me. Yeah, that's you know.
oh,
Honestly, Incredibles for me, it was mediocre. Yeah,
that's a
like
hot take.
honestly,
That's
so
that's an
overrated.
unpopular opinion.
Yes, so it was so overrated in my opinion.
I disagree,
Like
man. That's a great
it's
movie.
and Incredibles 2, people were really excited about it.
No, Incredibles 2 was ass, but the
It
first
was
one is amazing.
ass. You know, I don't know. I felt like it was I preferred the old school Disney more so, talking animals and shit.
I mean, yeah, Disney
Or
animated
was
versus Pixar's is
yeah,
sort of a
they have
different
different
vibe,
feels.
but
Yeah.
the talking animal thing is definitely appealing. Like Robin Hood is, Maid Marian in that
Oh,
movie is so hot.
it is surprising you're not a furry.
Yeah. So,
Anyway,
okay, well,
your number
my
two, Badlands.
it's got to be Badlands, man. This movie is amazing. It is. I loved it even more after watching it with other people who hate it. Like, I watched it on my own for the first time, and I was like, this is a revelation. Like, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. And then I watched it with both my parents, and my dad got up at the end and said, that's the worst movie I've ever seen. And every reason that he gave for why he hated it, I was like, those are the things that I like about
Yeah,
it.
that's what makes it
Like,
good.
And I almost don't even want to say too much about it for the folks at home, apart from, I think, on YouTube. Let me just verify that I'm not lying to you. Um, if you look up on YouTube, yeah. So if you look at Badlands, the first 4 minutes, the Criterion Collection, who puts out this like special edition thing, you can watch on YouTube the first 4 minutes of this movie and just get a feel for like how it's like how the tone is set up in the beginning, and you will know instantly if you are interested in watching any more of it, because there's some people who will see it and be like, that it seems awful. But if it intrigues you at all, I would say it's worth a watch. Like, if the first 4 minutes are interesting to you,
I do remember
it's just great.
we picked this as a watch with our friend group, which constituted, I
Yeah.
think there was 8 of us. Pretty
No, there
cons-
weren't that many of us. There was
because there was Chrissy, Amanda, Kate.
Amanda, Kate. I think that was it.
I think weren't the fellows there? Wasn't Ian there and Brett? I want to
I
say
don't
they
think
were
I,
there too.
Brett was definitely not there.
No, I thought they
There wasn't.
were.
I don't think there was more than 5 or 6 of us there.
I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. But no one
No, I
liked
don't
it.
think Ian was there either. I think it was just the two of us and those 3 girls.
See, I feel like
Maybe Julian was there. Yeah, Julian was there.
maybe Julian. I thought there was more dick than that, but
They all hated it.
yes,
They all were like,
they were all just playing on their
"Get me out of
phones.
here." They like made up an excuse to leave early, and it was like,
yeah, no one
literally,
liked
they
But-
literally 30 minutes into the movie, they're like, "Oh, I have to
it.
go change my feet."
I have to go wash my hair.
Yeah.
It's that day of the week. But yeah, basically, just for the folks at home, premise of the movie is
It's a dark comedy
it's a dark
about.
comedy about like a 24-year-old who's dating a 14-year-old.
I don't think that. I think it's more like a 21-year-old. I don't think he's that much older than her.
I want to say it's like a 10-year split.
I forget, but yeah,
Anyway,
it's basically
it's an adult person who runs away with a teenage girl,
with a teenage girl, and they go on a killing spree
and yeah,
across the nation.
he ends up killing a bunch of people, and yeah, and that's
And it was
basically
made in the 70s, so it definitely feels like a 70s movie.
yes.
Like part of it, if you were to watch the first 4 minutes, like part of it is just that it feels like an old movie. But
Yeah, so it's a bit drier, a bit slower, probably than it would be if it
it's
was
not
made.
that slow because the total runtime of the movie is only like an hour and a half.
That's
So
true.
it actually, yeah, it's only 94 minutes, and that includes the credits. So, but I have to say, like, even though the characters are insane, like it conveys its thematic material so absolutely convincingly well. Like the scene where they're listening to Nat King Cole and they drive over the hills and they see the sunset or the sunrise hitting the mountains. Like after that moment happened when I first saw it, I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Like it conveys so well the feeling of like the loss of innocence. I think is really what I connected with.
Yeah, and it's it's pretty great.
And it also has this sort of vibe of like the things in your life are only as important as much as you care about them. Like there's all these things that they do because he just has this sense of like self-importance of like that the things he's doing are like important, you know?
Yes.
Like
For sure.
he sort of is pretending to be like he's sort of pretending to be something he's not, and that aspect of the movie is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting the comparison to James Dean, like the
Yeah, he is a James
like
Dean wannabe for
yeah,
sure.
like he has a James Dean complex, sort of like
Yeah,
is kind of how you, like it's you know which again that might not play as well with younger people, like they might not get that because they don't understand kind of who James Dean was or
I
like
feel like it's the same idea though. As like if you see like someone on YouTube or like a celebrity now that you want to be like. It's the same
yeah,
idea.
it is similar. But I feel like knowing kind of what James Dean was like and his
It's classic
persona.
Americana. Yeah,
Yeah, it
like it was made in the 70s, but I think it takes place in 1959.
yeah,
So this is like pre Beatles, pre pop tabs on sodas.
yeah. But
This is
yeah,
classic Americana. Yeah.
it I did consider it. It makes my honorable mentions. It doesn't quite make my top 11, just because it is a great movie. I do highly enjoy it, but I don't think it was quite as formative to me. The whole
It just
I
the
do
thematic
also
material really connects with me.
I love that people hate it too. Like it is just so interesting.
I'm not joking. Like it adds to the experience for me after
Yes.
seeing the other people recoil from some of the things that happen. Even like just watching the first half an hour of the movie, you've already caused someone so much distress by that point.
Yes.
Because like there's just weird things that happen. Like
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
like when he throws the dog off the bridge.
Which, yeah, it really
like like
disturbs
like I
some
said, it's a
people.
dark comedy
It's a dark
for
comedy
sure.
for sure. Yes.
And some people who watch that recoiled, and they're like,
Yeah, but it was yeah,
it's so funny though. If you're watching it with someone else who's also laughing, you will laugh
so hard.
hysterically.
Yes. Okay, my last one is Whiplash.
That I would say that is just outside the honorable mention for me. Like I would still
Okay.
give it like an 8.5, 9 out of 10.
Hmm.
The ending scene is absolutely amazing. I think the
Yes.
movie as a whole,
It's another
it
one
it doesn't
where
quite get there.
J.J. Simmons, the personality of
J.K.
him. J. What Simmons?
J.K. You're
It's
thinking of J.
J.K.
Jonah Jameson,
Oh, I always thought it was
which he
J.K.
also played.
Simmons. Yes.
It's J.K. Simmons.
Well.
Go on. Anyways,
Anyway, he's the one that sells me on the movie. Again, it's one of those where I love the
yeah,
personality of the person in the movie so much that it makes the movie, and along with it being a great ending.
yeah. To me, the movie lives and dies on its ending because it like the last 10 minutes is some of the best 10 minutes of cinema
Yes, what
ever.
makes it such a high quality movie is the ending. But what makes it
Yeah,
really enjoyable for me is
is
J.K.
the
Simmons'
J.K. Simmons.
character.
Yeah,
Yes.
for
So
sure.
like his character makes the movie really compelling, like the story, the plot,
Yep.
whereas the ending makes the movie actually really good. So,
I can find a spot for it in my honorable mentions. Like I would have to really dig into like my top 25, top 50 movies to see where it ranked for me.
yeah.
I would have to really consider. It's definitely it's an amazing movie though.
Yes. And so,
Like I
for
said,
those of you at home, the premise of the movie is just a kid at
young drummer
a drummer at a
at a music
school,
school.
yeah, at a music school for jazz, and he gets put onto like the highest ranking in the one of the highest ranking classes, and he's just it's him working to earn his spot in that class basically, and J.K. Simmons is the hard ass teacher, who
Yeah,
expects everything from his students.
he's perfect. Expects absolute perfection.
Yes, and that's the whole movie. I mean, it's a pretty simple premise, but it is really well done. I enjoy it. The whole the main character's relationship, like the romantic relationship, is such an interesting kind of sidebar for me. I do really like how that was done.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
he's kind of awkward and like he gets into this relationship a little awkwardly and then just kind of throws her away for the sake of his music. It's just such a like it doesn't have a lot of screen time, the relationship itself. It's not like a major part of the
That's kind of the
story.
point, though.
But yeah, that is the point of it. It's that, it takes a side view. Like you're almost expecting it to turn into a drama just about his life, but it's more about the drum. Like it is an interesting feel.
Yeah.
I do like that about it.
The moment that really comes together for me in the end is when he's in the middle of his solo, and the editing in the whole movie is brilliant, but especially at the end, it cuts to his father watching him from backstage, and the look of absolute, like, he doesn't recognize his own son anymore.
Yeah.
That, like, and just that look, it says so much, you know?
Yes.
It's great. So,
Yeah.
well,
So it makes fun.
I don't have much time. My family are wanting to Skype, but I think we have time to close this out, though.
Yeah, you have one
But
more left.
yeah, I only have one more. Yeah, it's Father's Day, which is why they're wanting to
Yeah.
talk. Because, the folks at home are going to see this in the future or never.
When it's not, yeah, Father's Day.
So, my last one, I cheated, of course. I'm cheating. It's 3 movies. But it's basically one movie. Come on.
That's cheap.
If I have to pick one, I'll just say, like, Return of the King and leave it at that.
Okay.
But, because, I mean, Return of the King is really where it comes together, like,
Yeah.
as a story. The first 2 are almost just a prologue, in many ways. But I have to say, the thing about The Lord of the Rings, for me personally, I mean, I think everyone knows that it's a great story and all that. The reason why it's special to me is because inside this box set, this is the extended edition, like, box set. And if I just open one of these cases up, there are so many discs in here. So there's, like, disc 1, the movie. Let's see. Oh, part 2 of the movie, because these extended ones are on 2 discs each. And then there's another 3 discs of special features. And this is only one of the movies. This is only Return of the King. So there's literally, in this box, 15 discs. And I have personally watched everything that those discs have to offer. So, and for me, like, because I don't think the people on this would know, I actually wanted to become a filmmaker for a long time. Like, I wrote my own screenplay, and, like, I was really serious about it. And, like, even now, I'm, like, trying to, like, write a book, and I just like being creative and, like, coming up with stories and stuff. But the behind-the-scenes making of these movies is what made me want to make movies. Like, the process of how they, like, how much thought they put into everything, because, like, these movies, they were released in, like, a 3-year schedule. So it was, like, December of 2001, December of 2002, and then December of 2003. But Peter Jackson and the crew were working on the movies since, like, 1996.
Yeah.
Like, it was basically, like, 7 or 8 years of them working on these movies, like, for it to be what you see on the screen.
Yeah.
And, like, every single shot of the movie, there's thousands of hours that go into every minute of that movie, you know?
Yes.
And so for me, like, I guess it's kind of a cheat because it's not really a movie. It's like it's like a 40-hour long documentary. But yeah, I guess I could even say that the number one of the list is not Return of the King. It's they're
The
called the
behind the
appendices.
scenes.
So again, it's kind of a cheat, but I would have to say the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's what ultimately made me fall in love with storytelling as like just in general. It made me care much more about stories and things like that. So,
Yeah, I get
but I
that.
mean, in general, well, I should say this: there are haters out there who I've encountered. I don't know if I should even name names, but there's a girl that we used to know who we used to go to seminary with when we went to church, and she had a big mouth, literally and figuratively. You know what I'm talking about?
I honestly don't.
You know,
I've forgotten most of the people from that time in my life.
it was the one that we vandalized the truck of.
Oh, yes, yes.
But I don't want to name her name in this episode because I'm about to say something a bit mean. But she was being a hater, and she's like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings, that's so dumb. Like, only nerds like Lord of the Rings." And I was like, "No, you are wrong."
You are
I was
wrong.
like, "The movie's made $3 billion or something like that. Like, they made billions of dollars, so it's like it's not a fluke.
Yeah.
Like, these are some of the best crafted movies that exist."
And
Like it's almost a fact. Like the third one
yes.
won 12 Oscars. So and then later it was like a week later she was like, "Oh, I actually watched through them and they were really good." And I was like, "Damn straight."
Damn straight. It is. It, fantasy movies in general aren't good. Like, and people,
Yeah, that's true.
just in general, fantasy movies are not well done. It's just kind of sci-fi is a little better.
Again, it's the amount of effort you have to put into them to make them good
Yes,
is what's
sci-fi
immense.
is generally a little better, but fantasy movies usually are kind of campy. Yeah, they're just kind
Yeah.
of. But yeah, Lord of the Rings happens to be fantasy genre, but it is also a fantastic movie. Like they managed to
Yeah.
make it fantastic, even though it's fantasy. Which
I just want to put that out there for all the haters out there who have not. They make a judgment without ever actually having seen the movie,
yes, they
which
just
I
know
think
it's
is a mistake.
fantasy, and so they're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
fantasy. It's yeah,
So if you find yourself in that position, like honestly, give it a chance. I guarantee it will be one of the best stories you've ever seen.
pretty
And
fun.
part of that is the length of the movies. Like it's almost like the mini series that are like 6 hours long. It's like
Yeah,
you just have so much more time to develop a good story that it ends up being something really special at the end.
yeah, especially with the extended editions, because they
Yeah.
are like
I wouldn't
all
recommend
of
starting with the extended editions.
yeah,
Like the
no.
theatrical cuts they're much better paced. You won't get bored. The extended editions, like you might fall asleep during some
Yeah,
parts.
isn't the
To be honest,
extended edition total something like 14 and a half hours?
it's almost 12. I think it's
Oh,
11. It's like 11 and a half hours or something.
okay. But yeah.
But that's if you didn't take any breaks at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right. So those are our top 11s. If you want to just
I have another stack of honorable mentions here.
I'm just going to read out my list of top 11 real quick again, just for,
Okay.
a review. So on my list was Memento, American Psycho, The Graduate, Dark Knight, Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail, Burn After Reading, Whiplash, School of Rock, Hercules, Pulp Fiction, and When Harry Met Sally. So that's my top 11
It's a
actual
unique
movies.
list. I
It
would have to
is.
say, like, I was expecting Iron Man to be on there.
Yeah, no,
Is that an honorable mention for you?
it's an honorable mention for
Okay.
me. Yes, it's
That's the only one that I expected to hear that I didn't hear.
okay.
Okay, so mine, real quick again, was oh yeah, National Treasure. I'm like missing the case, so I was confused.
Mm.
National Treasure, Walk the Line, Holes, Django Unchained, The Big Short, Closer, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, When Harry Met Sally, Jackie Brown, Badlands, and then like basically The Lord of the Rings.
All right. So, what are
And
your honorable mentions?
so
What are?
the one that I had to take off right at the very beginning,
Oh.
it was going to be number 11, was The Sound of Music.
Oh.
And I'll just sum it up because I know we're at the end. The thing I really love about this movie, other than the music, is that the people are so genuine in it that like the way that they solve their problems is just by being honest and talking to each other, which is so rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that the love story resolves itself is that they just are honest with each other.
Yeah.
But also like I really love the music. I honestly, especially recently, like I've been listening to the actual recordings a lot, just by themselves. So
So, an honorable mention for me that fits that
for
same
sure,
Les Mis, Les Miserables. I really
which
like.
I hate,
Yep,
but
you despise it. It's fine. I really like
well,
the
I had
music
such a
of it.
horrible watching experience outside of the actual movie that it's hard for me to reconcile it. But
Well, yeah, I really like the music, but also I just love the competition between law and goodness. It's an interesting philosophical debate for me. So that's yeah. But honorable
I see why
mentions.
people like it. It's just much. It's to me, it crosses into the realm of being over dramatic and melodramatic.
Oh, for
I
sure.
would say that's my honest complaint with it. When I actually watched it for the first time, I had a blistering migraine, and the sound in the theater was so loud that I was like on the verge of vomiting because of my migraine. So I just had a bad watching experience, and so that really didn't help the fact that like I probably would have thought the movie is like a C. Like I probably wouldn't have hated it if I watched it just in a good mood, but
Yeah.
it sort of colored my judgment.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely
So
melodramatic. Like it's over the top in its drama, but you know,
yeah. Okay, so other honorable mentions for me. One I really wanted to talk to you about because I know you love this movie is The Nice Guys.
yes,
Such an underrated movie. I think this movie literally only made like 20 or 30 million at the box office. It deserves so much more. It's such a great buddy cop movie. It's such a great comedy.
yes,
Um,
it for sure.
it's
And
set in the 70s.
I love Ryan Gosling. It's
Yeah, yeah. The charisma is there. I will say there's enough nudity in this movie that it kind of what makes me want to take a break halfway through it and go JMID. But
I
that's
don't
the
have
problem with
that
like Boogie
issue.
Nights. Have you ever seen Boogie Nights?
I
It's like
have.
halfway through that movie, you just have to release the tension. Like,
I don't have that issue as much, but there is a decent amount of nudity. I like it. There's no romance. There's no romance
in the Nice
angle
Guys, yeah,
in the
yeah,
Nice Guys. So it's just a solid cop
it's just solid.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's solid.
Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, both good characters, work together well. The daughter is a good addition. So yeah,
Yes,
it
for
comes
sure.
together really well. It's a good honorable mention.
And then one that I have to say might have been ruined by the last time I watched it, and you know.
Oh, I was kind of expecting
It's
it to
not
show up.
not your fault. It was just the situation we were in at the time. It was
Yes.
just a bad idea. But I just need to wait a few years and then watch it again.
You
And
overthunk it.
well, I would have to say the movie in general, Inception. By the way, if you can't read, I don't know if it's blurry or not. Um, Inception, it's a masterpiece, but it's one that like you see it and you're like, that's a masterpiece, and then like you forget about it for a few years, or at least for me, like I just forget that it exists. and then I watched it again. I'm like, that was a masterpiece. But like, it for some reason
Personally,
doesn't stick with me as much.
it was overhyped for me, and the first time I saw it, I was like, "That's a mediocre action movie." Like
Yeah,
that's
to me, it's not an action movie at all. It's about the unconscious, and there's almost no other movies about the unconscious, really.
yeah.
And like,
See,
it's basically about projection.
yeah. To
Like
me,
he makes references to projections in the movie.
yeah. I don't know. It just landed
I
a
get
bit
it.
flat to me. I think the problem was everyone was saying it's such a masterpiece, like it's so complex, it like blows your mind. That I was like, no, that's just an action movie. Like I followed the plot really easy. Like the plot isn't hard to follow. It's not.
Yeah, you just have to rub a few brain cells together, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
Okay, we gotta wrap this up though, because I think
yeah,
my
you got it.
family's.
Okay, so these were our favorite movies
Well,
with
no,
some
but
honorable mentions. Oh, you have more.
I have
Okay,
a few more.
American Beauty.
I'm just gonna rattle them off though. American Beauty. It's a great drama. Don't let Kevin Spacey's Me Too stop you from enjoying this movie.
I still love Kevin Spacey.
It's basically about a midlife crisis, and he becomes obsessed with this girl in the course of that. It's great.
Yeah, it's good.
Um, Pride and Prejudice. It's one I watch with my mom, and it is a good adaptation of the book, and it's just funny, and
Well, you think
it's
it
a
is.
romance.
You haven't read it.
I've read most of it. Well, I like the first 80 pages. Crazy Stupid Love.
Yes.
It's a
I
great
love
rom com.
Yep.
It's pretty vanilla at the end of the day. It's not a terribly exceptional movie. It's a great Steve Carell sort of movie.
Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, it really does what
It's
it's
definitely a
trying to
bit
do
cheesy.
well. Yeah, it's
It's
cheesy.
cheesy, but it
It's rom
works.
com. It's good.
And then I would say Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh.
Now, this would be more in contention for my top 10 if I hadn't been so disappointed by the second one. Like the second movie actually made me like this one less, which
That's valid.
it's a shame. But I have to say this movie, honestly, I could credit this movie with me like discovering my love for old music, like 60s, 70s, 80s music.
Yeah.
It honestly like I was like, wow, those are amazing songs. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah, I think it rediscovered old music for a lot of younger people.
So and then ones we'd already talked about that were on your list as well as The Graduate and Memento. Were also on honorable mentions for me specifically. So
Yeah, honorable mentions for me. I had Mulan on, just like it maybe made the list sort of thing. Badlands was on yours. Iron Man for sure. Les Mis. Just Iron Man. I feel like the way you feel about Guardians of the Galaxy is probably how I feel about Iron Man. In similar
so much
ways.
has come after it now that it's just yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people. I don't know. It was still more of a drama than a superhero movie to me. Like it was more of a drama comedy than a superhero movie at that point. And it just,
At that point, yeah.
yeah,
It
Tony
was more
Stark
yeah, much
really,
more so.
the big dick energy from Tony Stark really clicked with me. So,
Yeah, I mean the same is true to a large extent for the original Spider-Man trilogy. Because Spider-Man 2 and even the first one, they're amazing movies. But they're so destroyed in people's memories just because of how awful the third one is that
yeah,
people just write off the entire trilogy, and they really shouldn't because the first although like I understand why because
yeah,
it's once you see the character in a different way, it just changes things.
yeah. It's hard to
It's
go
like if
back.
you watch National Treasure 2. It just is it ruins it.
Yes.
So
All right. Well, these have been, these are good movies. I'm surprised our
those are our
lists don't
favorite movies.
overlap almost at all. It's just been Harry Met Sally. It's the only overlap. But Well,
No, there was more.
no, that was the only
Uh,
one.
was it the only one?
Yeah, there was some honorable mention overlap, but top 11 when Harry Met Sally is the only one that made both our
I guess
lists.
so. Well, I guess that means if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it.
Yeah, I mean it made both of our top 11s. So
Put all these movies on your list, man. I mean, you know, I think unless you're a prude, you should enjoy all those.
yeah, yeah. So
Or if you're just not a fan of, sociopath style humor, then there's Badlands you probably won't enjoy.
or American Psycho. That's
Or American Psycho, yeah.
there's a
If you
couple in
enjoyed
there.
American Psycho, I don't see
Definitely
why
watch
you wouldn't
Badlands.
enjoy Badlands.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say that's a good recommendation.
Yeah, if you've seen American Psycho and liked it, you'll probably enjoy Badlands.
Yeah.
You're at least much more likely to.
Or I would say to some extent also if you enjoyed The Graduate, you might enjoy Badlands because the pacing is similar.
Yes.
Like it has that old movie feel to it very similarly. But
Anyway, this has
okay,
been Zach and Addison, the For No One Show. So
such a great name.
it is, because, we do this for no one.
I do it for myself.
That's what I said.
It's fun. Like I'll probably watch this at some point in the future, so oh future me, take a drink of water.
Remember to stay hydrated.
Yeah, stay hydrated.